Our country has gone through such a devastating year with COVID, but the only silver lining is that public health, which used to be invisible, is now very visible, and it's a term that's talked about every day. We all see what has happened when we don't think about improving our public health system and investing in it. And as part of that, this issue is very much a public health crisis because it's absolutely unacceptable for all the reasons that you've heard. So I'm hoping that starting now, we can all commit to doing more to address this crisis, because it doesn't affect just some of us, it affects all of us. For all the reasons we've talked about, this risk of homelessness could get worse in the very near future. We are watching Congress debate this very important package. But more critically, we need to talk about how we address these issues better together in a coordinated fashion across all sectors, not just the health sector, not just the housing sector, but across all sectors. Emphasize the health equity theme that's been mentioned prominently throughout this panel, and keep the momentum going. And from the academic side, I hope we can contribute some more. So we're eager to work with all of you in the future. And so thanks so much again for making the time to attend this very important session.
Thanks so much. Margot?
I think, as Amanda said, COVID did not change anything. It just sort of made more visible the ruptures in our society. And I think if there's one thing that the general public can learn from COVID is that we cannot have a healthy society until we have a just society, and we cannot have a just society until we actually reckon with all the ways that racism has sort of cleaved our society in half. And so maybe if there's one thing to say is that, we need to solve the housing crisis. We need to solve it in a way that comes from a framework of housing and racial justice, and that this is actually going to advantage everybody, not just impacted communities. And I think COVID has just made that very painfully visible. So that's what I hope we come out of this with.
Thank you so much. Roseanne?
I think it would be easy to leave this conversation feeling only despair. I hope people take away a sense of the urgency and how much is at stake. But also, I would like folks to know that communities are making progress. Of the 84 communities that we work with, more than half are reducing homelessness. 14 have ended chronic or veteran homelessness. There is a path to solving this problem. And I think to reference Howard's point, in this moment where the country is reckoning with the need for a robust public health system, and Margot's point that a justice and equity has got to be at the heart of it, we actually know what to do. It's about the will and leaning into what's working.
Very important words. Jim?
One, I find this discussion incredibly illuminating and provocative, and makes my mind go. And so in one way, I want to say thank you to everyone for that. And if I would have a thought on all of this is, I remember that we were stunned when the virus went raging through our shelter system in Boston. When they did the genomics on the virus, it was the exact same strain that had been at the Biogen conference, which was the original super spreader event. So if anything ever taught us from a public health and every other perspective that we're all in this together, it was right there. So rather than blame the victim, I think this was one of the first times I've seen people acknowledge this virus it affects everybody and we need to protect ourselves. And the only other thing I'd leave is that one of the guys who lived on the streets forever, who, is cantankerous and fun and, lovable in every which way, was grumbling the other day when we saw him outside his new home. And he said the only silver lining about COVID is that now the rest of the world will understand how isolated and stigmatized we homeless people are. And when I think of people dying alone in the hospital and all the stuff they're going through, that's what homeless people have been suffering through for all our lives. So there is a chance, I think, and I'm with Roseanne, I think there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And I think if we can, if we can just keep ourselves together, solving these fundamental structural issues that need to be solved, we'll get there.
I love to hear the optimism in all the seriousness of this problem. And final words to you, Amanda.
I agree with Roseanne. I have great hope, and my hope lies in the fact that we are finally able to have conversations, that there is no racial justice without housing justice. We're finally able to say things like our country is actually not broken, right? I hear people say all the time, this is not the America I know. This is the only America the Black and brown people know. Systems designed for our oppression. And when we have those conversations, we actually get to start to uproot and dismantle those systems to get to the goals that we know we can get to. And that means housing for everyone, ending homelessness, ending the disparities we see. So I have great hope because we're living into the tensions of really difficult conversations like we had here today. That's happening in communities. People are not shying away from that. And I would just ask you, when you leave this space, think every day, am I decolonizing myself as a gatekeeper? Am I disrupting the power that I have? So people with lived expertise, people closest to the ground and closest to the problem, are at the table, not with a folding chair, but with a permanent chair, and then get to create their own spaces with the power that they rightfully deserve to make decisions about the policies that have been impacting them for years.